Hi, this is Hans from Request for Music, and this is my tutorial about the ELEKTRAX drum module. The ELEKTRAX drum module is a module with 4 tracks that you can use to create some simple electronic drum music or drum sounds as a backing for any of your other tracks. That's actually something that I needed. I'm working on a polyphonic synthesizer module for Voltage Modular, and I needed some sounds, some drum sounds to play to. So I created this, and actually this came out before the other module. But anyway, this is the ELEKTRAX. What are we looking at? The ELEKTRAX, as you can see on top, is something that has 4 tracks to work with. At the top you see the speed, which you can set from the speed dial, and you can see in the settings or in display on the left. And for the rest, it has a reset button to make sure that you start from the top in the sequencer, because it's actually a 4-track sequencer, and it has a start stop button here. And further, you see on here you see the track selectors, so to speak. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it has mute buttons for all of those tracks as well. To the right of that, you see all of the buttons for all of the 16 tracks, or sorry, the 16 steps that you can use. You can see the LEDs that is going to tell you the speed for the sequence that is running, and you see some light grayer areas for every 4th step to make it easier to program. And more to the right, we've got the settings for the dedicated sound that is available for each of the tracks, because it's not just the drum sequencer, it has the sounds at the same time as well. So you've got a pitch setting and a wave setting, a decay, bend time, noise, level, and pen, and I'll go over these later. And more to the left, I've got a couple of outputs, and first of all, I've got a label in which you can set the name for the track, so it has the name of kick at default. And the other tracks then are the snare, the hi-hat, and the bell. And we'll go over that later as well. Underneath, you see a start, stop, and reset input that are available to indeed start or stop the module, and reset to make sure you start from the first step. And underneath there, I've got a couple of outputs for control voltage outputs, which actually carry the pitch information, including the bend from the track, and envelope outputs, envelope 1, 2, 4, that carry the envelope outputs from those tracks. And at the bottom, I've got a left and right output and a main level output. Okay, so as you can see, I've got a wood panel in here that I created with the option of creating text in there. So this is called the ELEKTRAX drum module, and each of those tracks have their own pitch range for this pitch button or the pitch dial. Well, as said, it's pretty easy to program. It's a matter of just taking the left and the right outputs into the left and right main outs from Voltage Modular, and then click on one of those buttons here. So if it's got it set at 60 speed, which actually is the how do I say that, not influenced by a sync from the DAW. If I wanted that, I can actually shift click my speed, and you will see that the display changes into note values, and the speed dial changes through those note values then. So it has a range from 1/32 up to 1 full measure of in speed when compared to the DAW. And if I just shift click again, it goes back to my chosen value for the normal independent speed that I can set. So I've got this as 60 speed. Let's change it up a bit. I'll put it at 90 or something like that. So I'll just go to 90 and put a kick drum in there. And first of all, one, just go over there. And as you see, it's just a matter like what you're probably used to in any sequencer, and just clicking those steps to get that sounding. It has a decay setting, so if I put the decay up, it's going to stay on longer. It stays up until the next gate it's actually getting from the next step. So if I do something like this, you'll see that the decays are indeed shortened a bit, and otherwise I can just shorten it myself by doing this. Um, Apart from the pitch, which has a setting from 20 hertz up to 500 hertz for my kick drum, but it doesn't need to be a kick, and I can actually use the wave to change the sound between a sine and a sawtooth. So I can change it for lots of other stuff as well if I wanted to. And then again, if I do this and I take a longer decay, for instance, I've got my bend value as well, and the bend does indeed influence it. Let me stop it first. The bend can be set from negative 100% via 0 up to plus 100%. So that means that if I set this and I start it, you won't hear anything at this point because the bend time is too fast. It's at 0 at the moment. So if I take this up, I could get those. I could get those Simmonsy kind of electric drums going if I wanted to. Let me reset this. Oops. Reset the bend for now, and take a bit shorter decay. I also take the wave out. I'll put it up a bit like this, and then with the noise, I can obviously put some noise in there, which makes it easy to create some sort of a snare track. So let's actually put in the snares. So I'll go into my second track and just put something in. There's already sort of a default in there, but it might be too short or whatever to your liking. So I'll take some of the level out and take a bit higher decay, wave a bit lower. So something like that, for instance. And let's go into the hi-hat track. And obviously a hi-hat is very difficult to create and would be easier using a sample, but still at least we've got something. So let's put it a bit lower and maybe a bit longer, and and of course if I needed more noise, actually if I put the noise all the way up, the pitch doesn't do anything anymore because you don't use the actual pitch from the oscillator that's in there anymore. So I needed to dial the noise back a bit. And obviously I can set the panning for that hi-hatty kind of sound or whatever it's going for. The fourth track is then something that I call the bell because it has the highest range and could go to lowest as well. But if I take this and just put some notes in there, so But you could use it for these kind of effects as well by using the bend, as you can hear. Something like that. And if I just wanted to get rid of all of those steps, I'd do a shift click on the track and it gets rid of all of those tracks. It resets that track. That's something, of course, and obviously I've got a start and stop and a reset in there, which makes it easy to start and stop that module, especially when I use two modules, because obviously I can use a copy of this. So, oops, wrong one. So let me take this, and so I've got this second module in there, and let me put this back at a lower speed. I'll put this up at 60, and I'll put the other module up at, I'll put the other module at double that speed, for instance. So I'll put it at 120, and I'll now take this module, which is a module by P-Moon, a free module that has a couple of buttons and a couple of control voltages that you can use to drive other stuff by using the buttons. So it's pretty easy now to, for instance, if they have been running at their different speed, and this one is at that track, and actually they're only running, so, and also use CPU power when indeed the output is connected. So as you saw, it doesn't start or stop at this moment. It's not going to run, but as soon as I connect the cables to my output, is indeed going to do that. So it's somewhere there now, and the other one's at the 15th step. So if I take my control voltage output and I connect that to the reset inputs, and I also connect it to the stop as well, I can use this to reset both of those tracks at the same time, which obviously is a lot easier. I can use the control voltage output of the first button to drive the start. So then if I do this, it's going to run both of those simultaneously and in sync, and I can stop both of them and reset them both. So that makes it a lot easier to drive both of those ELEKTRAXes. So that's pretty much okay, but can we go a step further than that? First of all, let's see what I had in all of those. Obviously, I duplicated them, so let's set them a bit differently. Let's do this at a really standard kind of pattern. So this is now just doing this kick. So kick, snare on the fourth, downbeat, upbeat, and so on. You know the drill. And I could actually maybe even use one of the other tracks, like track 4, that I don't have anything in at the moment, to drive the other one, because the envelopes can also be used to trigger, for instance, the start or the stop or whatever. So I could say that, or let me first use the snare, for instance. I could use the envelope for the snare, which is track number 2, to drive my stop for this. So this will be stopped as soon as it gets a snare, and let's say that the hi-hat is going to drive, which is track number 3, is going to drive the start from this. So now it will be running part of that that second ELEKTRAX when it is fed at that point by one of those steps within the first ELEKTRAX. So that really changes the kind of thing that you can do, and it almost sounds generative, because you never know exactly when it's going to happen, especially when you've got it at very strange beats. And I could even, while this is running, make sure that this is reset, for instance. Yeah, because I can do really, really strange stuff. At this point, it's just going to run through, and I could obviously use different pitches for this to make sure that I hear it differently. So something like that. And if I put more steps into this, it's going to start and stop this at different points altogether, especially if I put some extra snares in this. And obviously I could have, well, let me first of all stop and reset so I can start new. And I could obviously take a next one in there as well. Maybe put this at 30. Oops. Put this at 30 even, so at a lower speed, and that's just going to create some sort of a low bass sound. So I'll just use only number 1 and put this into my outputs as well, and I'm going to use a wave with some noise in there, maybe just to listen to what it does. I'll put this at a low frequency. So something like that will do. It'll give it a long decay, so it takes quite some time before it's going to start off again. And yeah, that's it for now. Just connect this to my start and the stop and reset to button number 2. So let's do this, reset everything. And obviously it would be better to give it something to sound a bit better into. Let me take my my delay, which is a module that is not available in the store as yet, but will be available soon. So I'll put this in there and put my third ELEKTRAX. I'll take that out of the delay instead. So I'm going to get the delay and put that into the host and take this into my delay. And so obviously I need to set some settings for that delay. Delay actually has 2 separate delays, each with their own speeds, and the speeds can be set by these speed dials in here, which have a switch to set from a low, which has 0 to 150 milliseconds, a mid, which goes from 100 up to 1500 milliseconds, and a high, which goes from 1000 up to 5000 milliseconds for the delay. So let me put it at a low let me put it at mid actually. So at mid, and put it somewhere around 500 or something. So something like this, and it needs some mix and it needs some feedback. And I've got both of the tracks connected, but track 2 is not affected at the moment. So if I run it, if I read I actually get this. Let's put some more in there so we kind of hear it work. Put some feedback in there. And I could set some other speeds in the other channel. So let me put the mix and the feedback on that one as well. It's a bit in the way of the actual speed. So. And obviously, if I combine this with it's already going to sound a bit more alive. And obviously, you can take all of the other channels and put them into delay as well. And actually, this all of this with all of the combinations for envelopes and this could actually be used to drive, for instance, the mix for this. So if I look at this, now it does this. But if I would use one of the other tracks, for instance, to only drive the mix or the feedback of one of those delays, that will sound differently as well. If I take this out to drive my mix, the decay is also going to make sure that the feedback, or sorry, the mix now is going to be affected, or the feedback for that matter. So let me put it at very low values now, because at low values I could almost get sort of a flangey or kind of so if I now would actually use this and maybe drive this faster like this, so I get more steps, and do something like this, I could actually use one of the other tracks, for instance track number 2, and I could take that envelope output instead. So I put it, oops, come on, I put the envelope output into the envelope number 2, so it's not going to feedback at the moment from this, but then I could use a next step that I wouldn't have to hear by, so I could take the level off of this, but change the delay, and now it's going to drive that flanging kind of effect by using those steps to drive this. So indeed I can get really modular effects on that delay by using this. So let's reset that and start this. And it would even be nicer if I would modulate these kind of things. So let's take something. Well, I'll take one of my own modules, which is the RFM LFO module, that's also not available in the store at the moment. But just to give you an idea, as you can see, it's a module with actually 3 LFOs in there, which all have their own speed dials with well, similar buttons like these, switches, where you can switch the setting from low up to high with each their own settings. So if I start off at low and I use the low triangle output to change this delay time, and I have to use this to change the depth. And first of all, just let here. Now you hear that you really can get sort of flanching kind of effect because it's such a low delay value. And I can even use the envelope to reset this LFO, so to make sure that I also always have the same kind of effect. So let's restart this again. And of course, if you use other kind of values for this, say that if I switch this to 180 for the speed for the second ELEKTRAX, that will sound differently as well. So let's just try that. Put it at 180, because then the secondary tempo that is being started by the first ELEKTRAX is going to be at a different speed. So let's hear what that does. As you can tell, very weird effects. So and let's just otherwise speed this up, and both up this to 120, that one to 240, being double again. So let's do that. So 120 for the first, 240 for the last one, and oops, and let me put the bass synth, so to speak, up to 60 as well. So to 60, reset everything. Well, I hope that gives you an expression, an impression of what you can do. First of all, with the ELEKTRAX, obviously, because that was the most important. But on the other hand, I wanted to show you a couple of the other modules that I'm working on right now that give you lots of options, which have loads of potential. The delay by having all of those modulatable inputs for delay time, mix, feedback, and cross, where the cross is sort of crossing the signal from the first input or from the first delay into the second delay. So you get lots of weird effects that way, and you really have to be careful because it's easy to blow up everything. Obviously, when you're crossing, it's putting signal into the other delay, and that's going to be used to drive the other one. So it's easy to have out of control feedback loops, if you understand what I mean. Again, I hope that it gives you some impression of what you can do with ELEKTRAX. And if you have any questions, obviously you can always send me an email, and we'll work something out. And otherwise, I hope you have fun with it. Cheers. Bye bye.